Hi, this is Imaneo. Welcome to my channel. And as you know, we are building a game using Flutter and Flame Game Engine. It is called Flappy Dash, and this is the final episode. So we are going to wrap everything up. And as you remember, in the previous step, we just implemented the lobby feature. So as you know, we have a backend that is running on Nakama. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, I highly suggest you to watch them because it's a series. And now we have a lobby page that you can join and you can see other players that are joining. The point is that when the timer finishes, nothing happens. So we need to open the multiplayer page and we need to put the dashes that we have inside the game and they can just play with each other. And yeah, so this is something that we are going to do today. They can send some events together back and forth. For example, a dash can jump, can die, can gain a score or something like that. And yeah, so first of all, we want to reuse the game qubit that we have. So as you remember, we have a game qubit that we have some functions, for example, start playing, increase a score, and game over. So for example, here we are handling the audio, and to be able to reuse this, we need to have a sealed class or an enum or something like that that allows us to differentiate between the single player mode and multiplayer mode. So to do that, I'm gonna create a sealed class called game mode here, and it's a sealed class game mode. Yeah, so at the moment we have single player. Yeah, so we don't have anything at the moment, but later we might add some, for example, game configs or something like that. But at the moment it's empty. Okay, so let's create the const constructor. Thanks Copilot. In this video I just decided to keep it on. Okay, so we need to do it here and here. Okay, so now we have the game mode that is a sealed class. It can be either a single player or multiplayer. And let's have a reference or have an instance here, game mode. And yeah, so let's see where we create this one. It is inside the main.dart file. So it means that it is something that is general for everyone. And we can create a function, for example, called onGamePageOpened or something like that. And here we can get the game mode from the page that is opening. And it's gonna be game mode. And we are going to emit a new state. Okay, we need to have a game mode inside the state, not here. So I'm sorry about that. We need to add it here. Yeah. And it can be null by default. And here we have game mode. Yes, yes, and here. Okay, so we just added the game mode inside the state, and now we can emit a new state with the new game mode. So now we need to call this method or function from our game pages. So we have single player game page, and here we have the init state, and we can just call GameQubit.onGamePageOpened. Yes, and we just pass the single player game mode. Okay, it doesn't have the game mode at the end. Let's add it, game mode. And yeah, so we just set it as a single player game mode. And yeah, so also we need to have a new page called multiplayer game page, just like this. I think we already have it. Yeah, we already have it, but it is empty. So let's copy paste everything that we have here. So I'm just going to copy paste everything, but I'm going to change the name to multiplayer game page. Okay, now we need to remove this part, and yeah, so let's import everything. Yeah, we could create an abstract class over the game pages and we could just pass the game mode, but I just duplicated it for now and I think it is fine for now. And here, instead of the single player game mode, I'm gonna pass multiplayer game mode. And yeah, so now we just created the multiplayer game page, and it just uses the same thing that we have in the single player. It has the, for example, game widget, and we just pass the Flappy Dash game, and also we have the top score, the tap to play, and other elements. And yeah, so now we just need to open the page when the timer is finished. To do that, let's take a look at the lobby page that we have. And as you remember, we have a multiplayer qubit that we have a timer here. Yeah, as you see, we have a timer and we update the remaining, and it is something that we show here. But the point is that, as you remember, in the backend, we are sending some events to the client. It's here, match event. And there's an event called match started, something like this. And yeah, so we just need to listen to this event, and when this is happened, we can just open the new page and we can continue with the events that we have. So I think we can expose the match events to the pages that we have. For example, we can create a match event stream controller. So it is broadcast. It means that everyone can listen to it. It doesn't matter how many listeners do we have, and it's just like a broadcast. And because it is private, now we can have a stream of match events. Yeah. And it just returns the stream from this controller. And let's rename it to match events controller to have a better name here. And whenever an event happens, we can just forward it to the stream and everyone can listen to it. I mean the pages that we have. And inside the multiplayer lobby page, we can just listen to the events, and we can say if event is match started event, let's open the game page. And also let's have a print statement to make sure that it is calling. And now we need to have a reference of the listen. It is a stream subscription because we need to dispose it. Otherwise, we are going to have some memory leak and this kind of issues. So it's going to be a match subscription or events subscription. Let's import it, and it's here. And inside the dispose method, I'm going to cancel it. Okay, now I think we are good to go. Let's run the game. By the way, I changed the minimum players to 1, so it means that it can just start the match with only 1 player and we don't need to wait for other players. It is just for test. And now let's join the lobby to see what happens. Okay, so as you see, we have received the match started event, and now we have the print statement. And now we just need to open the game page. And let me check the app routes that we have. Yeah, so as you see, we have the /lobby, and then we have the /multiplayer /match ID. So we need to open this route. And yeah, for example, for single player, we just have /single player, and it doesn't have anything at the end. And here, because we have the match ID, I'm just going to open this route. But as you see, we are not using it, but later we can just have access to the match ID and do something. But for now, I'm just going to open it. We can just say context.go. It's an extension function from the Go router. Let's import it. And yeah, so for the match ID, I'm going to use the multiplayer qubit.state.match ID. And here we have a warning. It says that don't use build context across async gaps. And it's true, you should not use the context in your async gaps. And the solution is just an if statement. We can say if context.mounted. If it is not mounted, just return. And now it should be gone, but I'm not sure why it is not gone. I think because we are in the state, we can just remove the context. Yeah, so we can just check if it is mounted. And let's move it back here and let's do this. Okay, now we are just opening the page. So let's run it again to see whether it opens or not. And yeah, so now it just opened the multiplayer page, and we need to remove this part, the leaderboard, because we don't have leaderboard in multiplayer. To do that, I'm gonna remove this one, I think. Let's do a hot reload. Yeah. And now we don't need to have the column. I'm just going to replace this one. And it is 0, so we need to remove the padding also. And yeah, so now this is the multiplayer game page. And now I think we can work on adding the other dashes into the game that we have. Okay, so to have other players in this page, we need to mutate the dash object that we have. And as you remember, it's a position component, and we just show and render the bird, and also we just move it, and it has some collision detections. So to get started, we can have a boolean, and it is called isMe. So it is true whenever the dash is for us, and it is false for when the dash is not for us, it is for other players. And for example, we can just disable the collision detection for the dash that is not ours. So we can say if dash is not me, just return. And yeah, also we need to have the player ID. As you remember, for the dash type, we need to have the player ID. And also we need to have the display name to show it above the player. So as you remember in the design, it is like this. So you need to show the player name or the dash name on top of it. And yeah, also we have some default names that we can use. For example, we can use Flutter Dash for this one. We can use Minty Dash for this one, and Sand Dash or Peachy Dash. And yeah, so let's have a variable called display name, and we can just get them in the constructor. Yeah. So let's change them to the named parameters with the required keyword. And yeah, so I think we are ready to add other players or other dashes into the game that we have. For example, this is our dash, and I'm gonna set isMe to true, and the player ID is something that I can get it from the game qubit or multiplayer qubit that we have. So let's create a variable called multiplayer qubit, and we can just get it from the game that we have. So let's see, what do we have inside the Flappy Dash game? Okay, we don't have the multiplayer qubit here, so let's add it. Final multiplayer qubit, and we can just get it inside the constructor. And because we are in the multiplayer game page, let's add it here. For example, multiplayer qubit, and let's inject it in the constructor. What's the problem? Oh, it is game qubit. It should be multiplayer qubit, and we need to find it using the block provider, just like this, and we just pass it here, and also we need to pass it here. So this is the multiplayer game page, and we need to do the same for the single player game page. And I know we are not using it in the single player, but we just need to provide it. So it's gonna be like this. And also here. So now we just provided the multiplayer qubit to the Flappy Dash game that we have, and now we can have access it here. So inside the Flappy Dash root node, we have game.multiplayer qubit, and player ID is state.player ID or current user ID. Yes. And the display name is empty, because in the design I decided to not show anything for the current user. I'm not sure, maybe in the future we will add it, but for now I just decided to not show it. We just show it for other players. And I think we are good to go for the dash that is for us. And now we can just listen to the events and just add the dashes for other players. But before that, I noticed something. So as you see in the dash, we have the player state. Yeah, so we are checking if the player state is not playing, for example, don't move it. Or if it is not playing, don't jump it, and so on and so forth. So the point is that we have the playing state that is an enum, and it is something that we defined it for the single player. And also for the multiplayer, as you remember, we have the multiplayer state or something like that. And here we have the player state, and here we have playing state. And it is similar to what we have here. So let me put it side by side. Yeah, you see that there we have idle, playing, and died. And here we have idle, playing, paused, and game over. So the game over is the same as died. And also in the single player, we haven't implemented the paused function yet. And that's why I think we can just remove this one. And now we can use the playing state that we have in the match state everywhere. And so let me copy paste these ones to here. For example, is playing is when the playing state is playing, and is game over or is died for when you are died. And also we have idle, that is for when you are idle. And we don't have is paused. I'm gonna remove it. And yeah, so now I can just remove it, and I can just use the new playing state that we have here. So I'm gonna import it. Yeah, we don't have any error here. Here, instead of the game over, we are going to use died. Here we are going to import it, and we have died, we don't have paused. And here we have the same, we have died, we don't have paused. And here we just use died instead of the game over. And also here I'm going to use died. Okay, so now we are just reusing the playing state that we have there. So we merged the two playing states that we had, and now in the dash we can just work with that. As you see, we have is not playing, and it is like the same, and it works. And now instead of this one, I'm going to create a getter, and it can be like this: playing state get current playing state. And if it is me, it's gonna be the same thing that we already have, like this. And otherwise, I'm going to read it from the multiplayer qubit that we have. So let's have the reference to it here, final multiplayer qubit, and let's make it late. And now we can initialize it in the onload. Yeah, we can say game.multiplayer qubit, and here we can say state dot match state dot players, and here we have the player ID and also the playing state. So let me simplify the logic for you. We said if it is me, just use the block.state.current playing state, and if it is not me, it means that it is a dash that is for someone else. And here we just use the match state that we have. So we suppose that the match state is gonna be updated in every frame or every time that an event happened. And we just can get the state from the player ID that we have, and it is the playing state. And now instead of having this one, for example, here we have 3 times, and I'm going to use the other thing that we just created. It's current playing state. And yeah, so now I think we are good to go. For example, if the other dash is not playing, for example, it is in game over or it is in idle, we don't move it. Otherwise, we just move it like the normal dashes that are moving. Okay, so now we need to implement the dispatching events that we have. So as you remember, in the data source, we have a method that is for send dispatching event. And as you remember, it is a bunch of events that we need to send. For example, player joined lobby. It is something that is for previous page. But for example, here we have player started event. For example, when you clicked here, we need to send this event. When you jumped, we need to send this event to let others know that, okay, you are jumping, and then they can just simulate the jump function for the dash that they have in the game. But the point is that I just forgot to send the position Y also, because when you do something, you need to send your position to the server, and it's going to be dispatched to all the players that are in the game, and they can just move your dash to the position that you are actually in. So to do that, I'm just going to add the position Y to all the events that we have here. And yeah, so now I just added the Y position also. And now whenever something happened, it's going to send the position of the player that the action is happened to others, and then we can just update the dash position. Okay, so to send the events, we need to implement some functions in the repository that we have. Yeah, so here we just need to add the function for send dispatching event, and it is still a generic event, but inside the qubit we are going to have different methods for different events. So I'm just going to open the multiplayer qubit and let's close other ones. And yeah, so I just copy pasted some functions to have here. Okay, as you see, we have, for example, dispatch jump event. So it is something that is going out from the current dash that we have, and we just send the player jumped event to the server. And for increase the score, we just send this event. For player died event, when you hit a pipe, we just dispatch this event. And we have player is idle event. For this one, I think we don't need to have the position X and Y because you are idle and you don't have any position. So let's remove it. And yeah, so we just need to call these functions from our client or from our player. So let's get started with the dispatch jump event. As you remember, in the root node, we have access to the dash and we call the dash.jump. So let's have a function called jump, and let's copy paste this logic here, and we just call it here, and also we just call it here. And now we can just dispatch the jump event. So we can say multiplayer qubit dot dispatch jump event, and for the X and Y we can say dash dot position dot X and dash dot position dot Y. And yeah, so that's it. It is for the jump event, and we need to do the same for when you tap to play. It's here when you want to dispatch the play started or something like that. You need to write it here because we are checking to start the game. We said if it is idle, we need to start the game. So here I'm going to say multiplayer qubit dot dispatch start event. And yeah, so the point is that, as you remember, we are reusing this component for multiplayer and also the single player, and that's why we need to have something, for example, game qubit. Yeah, from it we can just determine if we are in the single player or multiplayer. So let's have a reference to the game qubit, and where it was here. Here we can check if state.game mode is multiplayer game mode. We just send this event. And yeah, so we don't want to dispatch this event for single player games. And also we need to dispatch the game over or player died. I think we need to open the Flappy Dash game. Yeah, as you see, we have the game over. So this is something that we call whenever the player hits the pipe and it is me. So we need to make it negative. It means that if it is not me, it is returning the function. Otherwise, if it is me, it is checking this logic. So if we hit a pipe, we just call the game over and we just send it to others. And this logic is for when suppose that you have dash for other players, and when they hit to the pipe, we don't want to show the game over or anything. It is just for the dash that is for us. And here we can just call the multiplayer qubit dot dispatch player died event. And the point is that we need to call this method when we are in single player mode, and we need to call this one when we are in the multiplayer game mode. So let's have a getter here. We can say game mode get game mode, and it's gonna be game qubit dot state dot game mode. And let's have a hard check here. Yeah. And now we can just have a switch case over the game mode, and for example we can say in the single player game mode call this one, otherwise we need to call this one. And yeah, so now we need to have access to the X and Y position of the dash that the game over is happened, because we need to update the position for other players. And we can just pass the position.x and also position.y here. And we need to define the X and Y parameters here. And also we need to do the same for increase score. So when your score is increased, you need to dispatch the event to others so they can just update your score. As you remember, we have this leaderboard or scoreboard that is getting updated in real time and live in the game session. And yeah, so let's have the X and Y here. And we can say if game mode is multiplayer, game mode, let's dispatch the increase score event, and it is X and Y. And when we are calling this, we just need to pass the X and Y parameters. And yeah, so let's see what dispatching functions are missing and we need to call them. For jump event, we have somewhere that we are calling. For increase event, we are calling it. Player died is for when we are in game over. Player is idle, we don't have it, but for player started event, we have it here. And yeah, so this is for when we just, for example, when you lose, we show this page, this is died state, and when you click on the play again, you are in the idle state. So we need to dispatch this event when you click on the play again button. So let's open the game over widget. Yeah, as you remember, we have a game over widget, and here we are calling the GameQubit.startGame, and also we can just call context.read multiplayer qubit, and we can just dispatch idle event. And we need to have an if statement here. We can say if game mode is multiplayer game mode, call this method. And yeah, so now we are dispatching all the events that we need to dispatch, and in the next step we can just listen to the events and the state that we have for the match, and then we can just add the other dashes that we have in the server or in the game to see everyone in the screen. Okay, to do that, let's create a new component. So my plan is to create a new component that manages the other dashes that we have. Then we can add it here. For example, we can just add it here. We can call it multiplayer controller or something like that. And this node or this component is responsible to adding, removing, calling the jump function for other dashes. And let's create it here. We can call it multiplayer controller, and it is multiplayer controller. And yeah, so it is just a simple component that we have, and let's import it. I mean, it doesn't have any position or visual thing. It's just a controller that manages something behind the scene. And inside it, we are going to have a map of a string to dash, other dashes. So this way we can keep track of all the dashes that we have in the game. And by the way, instead of storing dash, let's storing a wrapper around dash and also the player state that we have in the multiplayer state. As you remember, in here we have player state. So here we have the score, we have the last known X, we have is in lobby and playing state that is important for our multiplayer game. So let's create a wrapper around them. So it is called other dash bundle. It has the dash and also it has the player state. So this way we can just have access to both of them, the dash and also the player state. And now we can just have a map of a string to other dash bundle, and the string is just the player ID of the dash that we have. And whenever we add the dash into the screen, we are going to add it here also to have access to the dashes that we have in the game and to prevent adding duplicate dashes and so on and so forth. So first of all, let's have access to the multiplayer qubit that we have. And as you know, we have the onload method here, and it's a void function. And yeah, we can remove this one, and we can say qubit is game dot, we can have has game ref, and it is flappy dash game, and here we can say game dot multiplayer qubit, and now we can listen to the states. So as you see, we have a stream of states that we have in the qubit, and we can just listen to it, and we can call on new state. And let's create a method for this one, on new state. And also we need to have the subscription and also disposing it. So stream subscription state subscription, and it's gonna be here, and in the on remove or something like that, we are going to cancel it. Okay, so now we are calling this method, and let's keep track of the latest state. For example, we can say previous state, and it can be nullable. And whenever we have a new state, we are going to update it, and let's rename it to state because it is not event. And now we can say if state dot match state dot players is not equals with the previous state dot match state dot players, let's update them. And what's the issue here? Yeah, we need to do this, and also we need to do this. And yeah, so we are just comparing the players that we have from the previous state and the current state, and if there is something changed, we just need to update the map that we have. So if someone is removed from the game, we need to remove it. If someone is added, if someone is died, we need to do the action. So we are going to call on players updated, and we are going to pass the players that we have here in the new state. And yeah, so let's create the function. Just to mention that you cannot compare the maps or lists together, I mean the content of them, using the simple equals operator. You just need to use list equals or map equals in our case, and I'm just going to copy paste them here, and I'm going to use it here, and we say if it is not equals, we are going to run this method. And yeah, so to implement this method, I'm going to use this code. By the way, it should be nullable. I'm going to use it like this. And yeah, so I'm going to explain you what is happening. At first, we check if the players are null. We just remove everything, and we just get the dash bundle dot dash, and we just remove it from the parent. So whenever the players are null, we just remove the map and also the players that are inside the game. And then we just try to remove the players that are no longer in the game. So we compare the dashes that we have here in this map and also the players that we have in the state. And if there's a mismatch, I mean, if we have a player that is not inside the players that we have in the state, we just remove it from the map and also from the parent. So this is the logic to remove the player. And also we have this logic to add the players that are updated and we don't have them. So at first we just get the my ID and we just remove ourselves from the players. So this way we don't add the other dash that is us. So we just remove ourselves from the entries that we have from the players, and we just iterate over them, and we say if the other dashes that is a map of ID to the other dash bundle, it doesn't contain the player.key. So it means that we haven't added the player to the game yet. So it means that we need to add it to the game, and we also need to show the display name. So we have the player state.display name, and yeah, so we just get the player state from the other player that we are iterating over it, and we just create a new dash, and isme is false for sure because there are other dashes, and we have the player ID and we have the display name. And also we just add it here. So we just add the dash that we just created in the multiplayer controller, so it's a component, and other dashes are going to be added to the multiplayer controller that we created. And also we just changed the position of the dash that we have based on the last nonix, and also we need to do the same for y. And then we update the map that we have, so it's the player key, and also this is the other dash bundle that we have, the dash that we just added to the game, and also the player state that is for the dash. And now let's run the game to see what happens. Let me run it also in Google Chrome to have two instances of the game. And yeah, let's join to the lobby. As you see, this is the Sky Dash and this is the Lime Dash, and hopefully we can see each other. Okay, so yeah, as you see, something is happening. We have the other player here, but something weird happened. I think we need to add the events to the game to update the position. For example, when this player is clicked on the play again, we need to move the other dash to the position 0 or any other position. Or whenever the jump happens, we need to make it jump. And to do that, we need to listen to the events that we have. Yeah, here we can say qubit.events, match events.listen. And we have on new event. Yeah, let's create it. And let's move it here. And we have also the subscription for the events subscription, and we can just add it here, and we can dispose it in the onRemove. And yeah, so in the event we can have a switch case over the event that is happening. And let's implement all the events that we have, and we can move the ones that are not interested in our case. For example, this one, welcome, for example, waiting time increased. So these are the events that we don't care about them. We do nothing. And we have match presences updated event. We don't care about this one. Okay, this is something that we need to do something. Match finished event. So again, this is something that is not for here. Player joined in the lobby. Let's move it here. Player started. Oh, okay, so this is the match. Let's move it here, but we have the player started here. And also we have player jumped, player escort, player died, player is idle, player kicked from the lobby, and player corrected position. Okay, so these are the events that we care about, and for this one we don't do anything at the moment because the player is just started the game, and the first event that is happening after the start event is the jump event. As you see, when you click on the start button, we just jump the player. And for this, we can just find the other dashes dot event dot. We have a sender ID, I think. Yeah, we have the user ID of the sender, and we can just get the dash. And we can call dash.jump. So this way we can jump the dash that we have for this player. This is a player that is not us. To make sure that this is not our event, we can just say if event.sender.user_id is not my ID. We can say if it is my ID, please return. And we can set the my ID here, and it is from the qubit.current account. And also we need to do a check here. Yeah, so this way we are making sure that it is not the event that is coming from us. It is an event that for other dashes, and for example we can jump it. And also we need to update the player position. As you remember, we are sending the X and Y, and here we are receiving it. So in the event we have dash X and dash Y. So we just need to update the dash position that we have here. For example, we can say dash position.x equals this one. And it's better to have a function inside the dash to update it there instead of having access to the position here. It's not a good idea to use it here, but it's fine for now. And we have the player escort event. For this one, we can just update the position. We just remove the jump. And for the dive, we can just use the same, update the position. But later, for example, we can run die animation, for example, have some particles that exploding. But for now, we just update the position. And also for is idle, we can do the same for now. But later, we might be able to add a starting animation. And this one is an event that I want to send it in every second or every 100 milliseconds or something like that to make sure that the position is getting updated in all the clients that we have. So for example, if there's a mismatch between the real position and also the position that we are showing, using this correction, we are going to fix the position issue. So for now, I'm just going to update the position, but also we need to send it. We are not sending it at the moment, but later we are going to add it to make the game more smooth. So this is for later. And yeah, so let's run to see what happens. Okay, so we have 2 instances of the game. So let's join the match. We have Minty Dash and also the Sky Dash. Okay. Okay, there is something weird is happening. I think we are not updating the player position. Okay, so to debug that, I'm going to do something in the root component or root node. Yeah, it's here. As you remember, it is the component that contains everything. It's the root node, and we have a method called update tree, and this is the delta time that is going down the tree to update all the components, and I'm going to times it by 10%, so it means that we have a slower game. So let's see. Okay, so let's join the lobby. Okay, so as you see, we have dashes and they are jumping well, but the point is that we need to do something very important. The point is that we are generating pipes with different positions in different devices, and also we are moving pipes. So with the new approach, we need to move the dashes and the pipes should be stay there. And also we need to show the same positions for the pipes that we have. So this way all the clients can see the same pipes with the consistent position. And also instead of moving the pipes, we need to move the dashes. So let's do this. First of all, let's find the pipe pair. And as you remember, we have a speed here. So let's remove it. We don't move the pipes anymore. And yeah, let's remove it. We can remove the update method. And now instead of moving the pipe, we are moving the dash. So let's add it here, and let's define the speed here. And we can just increase the position.x plus equals speed times dt. And this way we are moving the dash instead of moving the pipes. And yeah, so let's see what happened. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah, now the dashes are moving, but we need to set a logic to move the camera based on the dash position.x. So that's why they are going outside of the screen. And to do that, we can open the root component, and in the unload method, we have the dash, we have the game. So we can say game dot camera dot follow the dash, and we can set horizontal only to true. So we don't want to move the camera up and down, but we want to move it left and right. So let's run it again. Yeah, as you see, we are moving the player, and also it is moving here. And the point is that we need to move the background also with the player. So let's do this. Let's have a reference of it. Late final background, and it's gonna be here. And in the update, we can just say, where's the update here? We can just say background.x is equals to the dash.x. And yeah, so this way we are updating the background. But there's another problem. As you remember, we are showing different pipes. So as I said, we need to have a consistent set of pipes to show for all the players that are in the same session. So to do that, I'm just going to define a hard-coded list of pipes. So as you see here in the generate pipes, we are using a random variable, and yeah, it is something between 0 and 1, and we just multiply it with the area and some logic. So to do that, I can just remove it, and I can just hard code some values to show. And yeah, so let's define it here. For example, a static const pipes position, pipes temp y position, and it's going to be 0 and 0, 0 and 2, 0 and 4, 0 and 6, 0 and 8, and 1.0. So this is something that we are going to show. And also we need to have a counter here. Call it pipes counter. It starts from 0, and we just increase it by 1. And instead of this random value, I'm going to use pipes position. What was that? Pipes temp position. And as the index, I'm going to pass the pipes counter. So this way we have to see the same pipes that we see in other screens. So let's see. Okay, so as you see, we are updating the camera position and also the background position. And also we update the player position, and the pipe position is the same. As you see, both of them are seeing the same pipe that we have. And yeah, by the way, I like the trick to slow down the game, so this way I can just test it. And yeah, so it is working well. Oops. Yeah, so it is working well, and we have the players. And for example, in the next step, we can just set the correct color of the player based on the ID, just like what we did here. And because we are out of time, it took a long time for this episode. I'm just going to close this episode, but I think these are some simple things that I don't need to explain them, and they are boring. For example, changing the player color based on the player ID is something that we already did. And also we need to generate the pipes when you reach the last pipe. I mean, we need to do some modifications to make it work with the current logic. And also we can just generate these pipe positions in the backend, so it is not hard coded in the client and everyone can see the same positions. And also when the game finishes, we can just show a screen to show the winner and who is the second place, who is the first place. I mean, this might be interesting, but I think it is enough for this series. And if you are interested to see how I'm going to handle it, please let me know in the comment. Then I'm going to add some extra videos because I'm going to finish the series at the moment. And yeah, so just to show you the design, we are going to have this little scoreboard on the top left of the screen. And this way you can see others' score and others' rank in the same session. And also we are going to have a page like this where you can see the winner and who is the second place, and also a play again button. So this works like we listen to the events, and when the match is finished, we just show this page and it is finished. And also we need to update the color of the current score that we are showing. For example, on the top center, we are showing the player score, and we just need to change the style to show it based on the player color. For example, if it is red, we can just using the red color. And also we need to show the timer. So Yeah, as I said, these are some small things that I'm going to do it by myself. I'm going to commit them. So when you are watching this video, you can just open the GitHub page and take a look at the commits. And also you can play it live. It is inside the play.flappydash.com. By the way, it is the old version of the game, and because it is not working, but when you are watching this video and you open the play.flappydash.com, it should be working well and you can work with other players. I also will join in some sessions to play with you. And yeah, so please let me know in the comments if you want to see how do I manage the, for example, this page to showing this page, or how do I manage to show the timer here, and so on and so forth. Also, maybe I add some cool animations. For example, when a player dies, we can use these feathers to show the particles when a player dies. And yeah, so let me know in the comment if you want to watch this kind of videos, and then I can decide better to choose the content. Yeah, so we are done with the Flappy Dash game. This was the last episode, and we are going to continue the contents that we have here. I'm not sure what I'm going to start after this, but please stay tuned and don't forget to hit a like and subscribe the channel and share it with your friends. I think they're gonna like it. And yeah, so thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.